Hey, True Believers. Chris Mack coming at you with Weapon X #1. This is part of the Age of Apocalypse run, and man, I always forget how much I enjoy this series because it's written by Larry Hama, so it's just like, heck yeah. And this one is the extra edition, and I always remember back in the day when these actually were on the shelves, the extra editions had this little logo, and the backgrounds were white, as were the original cover. Looked like that. So it's kind of cool that you get the original cover, and I'll kind of give a brief summary here and at the end of why this is an extra edition. So this book takes place essentially immediately right after X-Men Alpha, and if you don't remember what happened then, we'll get to that in a minute. So I love this dynamic panel, the way that the screen just shows Logan and Jean riding in on a Sentinel, and where it picks up after X-Men Alpha, it says, "Oh, by the way," they said, "would you mind doing us a little favor while you're waiting?" Some favor. I figure the Human High Council owes us big time. So why are they riding a Sentinel? Why are these Infinites freaking out and not really wanting to alert Apocalypse about this? And I would rather ask for one of the prelates, which we'll talk about here in a second. But first, love this 90s splash page. This is the Great Atlantic Seawall of Apocalypse. And it's also like called the Mid-Atlantic Seawall, I believe is what it's really called. It's supposed to kind of keep people out of Apocalypse's domain. Hence why they were sent here. And as you can see, just the scale of things, this big wall, everything firing at Jean and this Sentinel and whatnot, and how this Sentinel is basically losing everything, because it's getting fired on so much. Now, before we go any further, let's talk about who made this book. This is, as I said, Larry Hama script, Adam Kubert breakdowns, Carl Kessel, Dan Green, Chris Warner doing the finishes, Pat Brousseau doing the lettering, Mike Thomas coloring, and Bob Harris editor. So all-star team on this book. And this is Unforgiven, Trespasses. So there's a big reason why the Human High Council has sent these two mutants into this seawall, and we'll get into that in a moment. Now, if you remember, Jean and Logan came to Europe to the Human High Council to give them information given to them personally by Sinister about what Apocalypse is actually doing behind their backs under the guise of the Kelly Pact, which is him supposed to be ceasing genetic, eugenics on humans and mutants, etc., so forth. Now, what's kind of interesting here is even though, these two, Jean and Logan have gone out of their way to show goodwill towards the Human High Council, this Sentinel, while it's fighting all these, all this cacophony, it says this unit has been prioritized to deliver 2 mutants with temporary termination amnesty to Mid-Atlantic Seawall at all costs. And just a look of anger on Wolverine's face. He said our termination amnesties were temporary. The High Council sure knows how to keep it close to the vest. We agreed to do this mission for them while they were making up their minds about the information we brought them. Just gripping, darling. Just gripping. So, Logan runs into some trouble, and this is a great fight scene. The artwork is absolutely beautiful and dynamic, and the panels just really help with the action. Just boom, 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 boom. And then while all that's happening, Apocalypse's own Alpha Mutant has been teleported down to the Mid-Atlantic Seawall. He says, "We've got a Sentinel pinned down on the weather deck. Is that all?" So at this point, it should be apparent who this is. "You had me go through cellular discorporation, risk the EM distortion wave, and risk cellular mapping reconstruction to deal with one paltry Sentinel?" And they're like, "No, sir." Like, you can see Havoc just does not care. So he kills the dude that told him that. He goes, "There's also 2 Alpha-class Renegades prelate." 2 alphas and you didn't transmit a code red to Apocalypse, y'all be lucky to be recycled as toxic waste handler drones. Because remember, Infinites, they are the reconstruction of all the humans and mutants that Dark Beast breaks down and down to the molecular level and rebuilds them into whatever he sees fit. And so, as Wolverine's trying to deal with what they came here for, Jean says, I'll hold the line. He's like, I will be back. And she goes, I know you will. Referring to what happened initially from X-Men Chronicles #2, talking about how Logan saved her from the breeding pens. She goes, I should have known, Havoc. Well, if it isn't the escapee from the breeding pens. My brother Scott is just dying to lay eyes, or should I say, eye on you. Where's your hairy boyfriend? I'd love to make a present of his other hand to my dear sibling. So Wolverine, there's some really great art pages where he's just ripping through this seawall place, the control centers and whatnot. I don't want to give it away because it's beautiful. However, he comes back for Jean and Summers. And I love the way this dynamicness just really shows him bash into Alex. You're not the Summers brother I really want to stomp. But you're the one who's here. I might just leave enough of you to go crawling back to Mr. One-Eyed Cyclops as payback for this missing hand of mine. So remember how I said I wish they would have shown this battle between them, but instead we kind of get it through dialogue, and a lot of that happens here in Weapon X and Factor X. So, crap. So as the X-Men, as Logan and Jean are trying to escape, because they've did what they've come to do, Havoc hasn't had enough yet, and just look at the hatred on his face and how quick he is just ready to murder anybody, which is the antithesis of the 616 Alex Summers that we know. But before that can happen, the Sentinel actually uses rocket hands, so just very much a trope here of comics, just like, I'm going to use my booster rocket hands, and shoves him back into the teleporter. And this allows for what's called the Great Airlift. Now, that's the whole point of this mission. What's the Great Airlift? We will get into Amazing X-Men soon. But yeah, that's kind of an important keynote of what kind of leads up to everything here in a bit. And then we go back to Manhattan, which is the stronghold of Apocalypse. And Cyclops is again talking about how he's trying to find Sinister, and Apocalypse is like, I'll deal with it myself. And even though this is kind of hard to see that yellow over all those purples, it says, forgive the intrusion, Lord Apocalypse, this is Dark Beast. A transporter beam mishap has resulted in Havoc being fused with a Sentinel hand on a molecular level. He's in no condition to give a report on the problem in Sector 5, but he keeps raving about the one-handed mutant. Is that a bone saw, Dr. McCoy? Yes, Lord. It's Jesus. And so everyone's talking about the one-handed mutant. And of course, Cyclops, Logan, I swear I'll rip his heart out. And so there's some back and forth there that happens. And then we come back to Europe, mission accomplished. Everyone's kind of talking about the validity of the information that was given to Jean and Wolverine from Sinister. And they're ready to attack Apocalypse. And they basically want to do what's called the Doomsday Strike, or Scorched Earth. And yet, if I may interject, not everyone is in agreement with this Doomsday Strike against North America. So Brian Braddock, Mariko Yashida, and yet in this universe, these two don't know each other, even though this is the love of Logan's life in the main 616 universe. Now, some things happened that launched the plot forward. One of Apocalypse's drones comes and it preemptively attacks the Human High Council, and this is Magma. Now, if you're not sure who Magma is, in the 616 universe, she is Amara Aquila, so that she was originally part of the New Mutants. So again, you can really see how without Xavier to guide all of these people, what would happen. So that's why when I started this event, I titled X-Men 41 One Man's Worth, because that was the title of the X-Men animated series episode, where what would the world be like without Professor Xavier. So that's why I titled that one that, as we led into this event that we're in now. So with Amara Magma here attacking the Human High Council, it pushes Brian Braddock to the edge and really gives some bad feelings for Jean Grey, as where Logan embraces them. So what am I talking about? I guess you're just going to have to pick up this comic book at your local comic shop and check it out. Now, real quick, this is what I wanted to talk about. The extra edition, without giving the book away. At the end, you get some really cool art pieces. So you can see Magneto and Rogue. And then this was the promo piece they used after X-Men 41 to show the death of Xavier at the hands of Legion, and Magneto, kind of feeling the ramifications of it. So it's a really beautiful piece. I just don't know who did these. I wish I could see the names. I think, if I'm going to take a stab, it does look like Bill Sienkiewicz, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And then this was a cool little promo piece that they used. Kind of wish that, it's one thing about comics is that spine always kills that splash page for me. But yeah, this was why this is the extra edition, was because of those cool little art pieces in the back. So if you guys have enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you take a minute to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little Weapon X bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys can get notified, come to the channel, and we love hearing your feedback and having a dialogue with y'all down in the comments below or on our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, thank you guys so much for stopping by. I hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.